Good morning, folks. Welcome back to the farm on a nice cool day. We're going to try to get some stuff done and take advantage of this weather. So come hang out with us. What do you girls think? You want to get some stuff done today? Huh? Or are you just going to keep playing around? So our barn quilt that we've been hanging on to since the auction a week or so ago, just been in our way. So I need to get this thing hung up. I think I'm going to put it on the barn door over there. So I need to go in to get the drill because there's no holes in the corners. We'll get the holes drilled. Get some screws and a screw gun. We'll put this thing up. Well, what do you think? I like it. Well, next project I was going to mow the grass, but walking through the grass, the toes of my shoes are getting wet. And that means the grass is too wet to mow. It'll just plug up the bottom of the mower. But I do need to clean out the bottom of that mower for next time when we mow the grass because it's probably pretty well plugged. So we'll go do that real quick. Kelly got done with the mower last time. It was like after dark, so I don't blame her for not blowing it off. We're going to lift up the front of our mower, and I use 2 chain hoists just for safety in case there's an issue. I don't want to be stuck under here when it breaks. So we're going to lift this baby up and get under there and clean her out. I also use my creeper because it's much easier to get under there. It keeps me off the floor from getting too dirty, but still a dirty job. You can see the underside of the deck here. None of this stuff's supposed to be here. Now it's dried on there pretty good, so it's not going to come off easy. So we're going to have to work at it. If I'd have done this the next day, it wouldn't have been so dry and difficult to get off. But all this stuff disrupts the airflow underneath your mower, and then your bag plugs up quicker, or your tube going up to your bag. This is the most important area to clean out because the grass comes right around the front of this here to go up the chute. So if you've got stuff plugged into here, it's going to hinder the grass going up into the chute. So it feels like I got that pretty well clean. So now we're going to have to pull the plastic chute off and get that cleaned out. You can see we got a lot of buildup in here too. And that also needs to go because it's going to cause a blockage right here, and doesn't have that smooth plastic to run on there. We've already cleaned out underneath our little chute here. It was all dirty. Well, you can see all the debris we got out. That amount of debris will seriously disrupt the airflow underneath your mower. And then we got this amount here just out of this tube here on the bottom. So I got to get all that swept out of there real quick before I let the mower down. Otherwise all that'll hang up underneath the mower deck. Well, there's what it's supposed to look like after we're done mowing. All right, let's get this thing put away in the barn and move on to our next project. Next thing I need to do is put this toolbox somewhere. I've just been storing it on this trailer here because it's going to go on the tongue of that trailer. But until I get it mounted, it's in the way. I got to keep taking it on and off every time I use that trailer. So I'm just going to put this in the barn for now until we mount it. So too heavy, so I need to go get the tractor. While we have the tractor out, we might as well turn the compost pile. Good looking compost. It's going to work great next year. Ruby likes coming in here and rolling in this nasty smelling stuff on the bottom. And Brandy likes to eat it. So we got two dum-dums here. Looking out here in the garden, our next round of aroma tomatoes. It needs to ripen up just a little bit more. We just picked a bunch, I don't know, a couple days ago. Plants are still looking pretty sorry. But we've got some slicer tomatoes. Looks like we can get in here and pick. Ooh, I'm excited about those two down there. And then lots of cherry tomatoes. There's a pretty red ripe one right there. We've got lots of jalapenos in here. A bunch of the other peppers down the line. About ready to pick some of those, and I think this year we're going to chop them up, put them in the freezer in separate baggies. We've got quite a few cantaloupes in here in this vine, and then lots of butternut squash. Looks like the bugs are starting to get the plants. So we got quite a few squash in here. This plant was crazy. That one there looks like it's ready to eat. But this is one butternut squash plant right here. Just one. Isn't that insane? Look at the size of those babies. Those are good slicing tomatoes there. It's almost lunchtime. I think we'll have a sandwich today. Even though our cucumber plant was pretty much destroyed, it's still put on some flowers, still putting on flowers. And we've got a couple cucumbers off of it. These aren't pickling cucumbers, these are slicing cucumbers, so they can get just a little bit bigger than the pickling. You can see here one of our massive celery plants. Each one of these will peel off like this, and then we can take it inside the house and we'll process this celery. So let's peel this all up, and we'll cut the greens off and give those to the chickens, and we'll have some celery to bag up in the house. Alright, we went ahead and pulled up all 6 of our celery plants. Well, actually I think there was 5, one of them died. But we've got several baskets of greens, but we got this whole colander full of celery here. We're going to take that in and get it processed. You can see this is a really big colander. It's our big garden colander we got at Junk Giant. So we got our celery in the sink. What we're doing is we're skimming any stuff off the top, anything that floats. Just kind of agitate stuff here. And anything floating on top of the water will go over in the other sink and down the drain. Alright, we're done skimming. So the other thing this water will do is anything heavy like dirt, after we've agitated it, will sink to the bottom. And once we clear all this out, you'll see all the dirt on the bottom. So we've got our chef's knife out and a bowl. We're going to start chopping celery. Kelly's going to pick out what she wants fresh. So the little thin stalks are floating to the top, so I'm grabbing all those and bunching them up, slicing them. This is what they look like, kind of like green onions, but it's celery. And when we make soups and stuff like that, size is not going to matter. So we'll keep chopping. Alright, I have all of the celery chopped. Kelly got home and now she's helping. She's putting 1 cup of celery in 1 pint freezer bags, labeling and dating them, and then we'll put those in the freezer for when we make soup or something else that takes celery. Alright, now that we got our celery done, we're going to set ourselves up for tomorrow night's dinner. So we're going to do ham hocks and beans. I got 2 cups of pinto beans in here dry. And then I took out one of our smoked ham hocks from this last year. We're going to thaw that out. So these beans are going to soak overnight. Probably fill this about half full of water. Just let them soak. There we go. So by soaking those beans, we won't need to cook those near as long tomorrow. About the time the ham hock is falling off the bone, those beans will be done. So let's get tonight's dinner going. So we're going to have our canned beef stew for dinner. If you remember last year, we made this homemade MRE, meal ready to eat. It's beef stew in a jar. Remember, we cooked it right in the jar as we were canning. So I've already popped the lid open. So you can see this white stuff on top. That is the congealed fat from the meat cooking inside the jar. Now, if you wanted a lower fat meal, you could skim that off, throw it in the garbage. However, when I serve my beef stew, I like to thicken it a little bit. So I'm going to use this fat as part of my roux. Not going to be enough, but it's got good flavor in it. So we're going to scoop that out with the spoon, and we'll put that right in our cook pot, and that'll be part of our fat for our roux. All right, that came out to probably about a half a tablespoon, and we want about 2 tablespoons for the roux we're going to make for this quart jar. So we need about a tablespoon and a half of butter here. We'll finish off the fat with that. And now we need 2 tablespoons of flour. All right, we have our makings of our roux in there. We'll get the fire going underneath it. That fat's going to melt. We're going to mix it with the flour. And then once all of that starts bubbling, we'll dump that whole jar of stew in there. And then the reason we're doing this is because we don't put any thickener in the stew, because when you can it, it wouldn't come out right. So we add the thickener later as we serve it. And then we'll also add some salt and pepper in here. And then once we dump that stew in, it'll thicken the stew up just a little bit. And we'll heat the stew all the way through, and it'll be ready to eat. Our roux is all combined and bubbly. We're going to go ahead with the whole jar of stew. And we'll give that a good stir. Alright, before that comes up to a simmer, we'll add a little bit of salt, a couple of pinches, and some black pepper. And then that should be good. You can see those beautiful chunks of meat in there, the potatoes and the carrots. And that was so easy to make. I'll put that video in the corner of this video here at the end, in case you want to make your homemade beef stew. Super simple. You would not believe how easy it is. It cooks right in the jar as you can it. Now you probably wondered how I come up with the amount of roux. If you remember, when we do gravy, it's a 1/4 cup of flour, 1/4 cup of any type of fat, and then 2 cups of liquid for gravy. We don't want this gravy consistency because that's too thick. So about half of gravy consistency would be about right. You figure there's about 2 cups of liquid in a quart jar. So we cut our gravy recipe in half. We went with 2 tablespoons of flour, 2 tablespoons of fat, and that should give us just about the right consistency. If you like it a little thicker, you add another tablespoon of flour, another tablespoon of oil, a little bit more roux, and it makes it a little bit thicker. Now, the longer you cook your roux, the darker it gets, the less thickening power it has. So if you want it really dark, a cooked roux, like a lot of flavor roux, say like you do in gumbo and stuff like that, you're going to need more roux because it doesn't thicken as much when it's dark. This is almost to a simmer. Alright, we're boiling. So if you remember, anytime you're making like gravies or anything like that, once your mixture boils, that's as thick as it's going to get. So to the mixture now, we're going to add about a half a teaspoon of our dry thyme. that we dry here on the homestead. If you've never used herbs, thyme is a go-to herb that you should start with. It adds a real nice earthy flavor to anything like stews and soups and stuff like that. So try thyme out. If you haven't tried it before, you'll really like it. So we're going to let this simmer just for a little bit. Heat those potatoes and everything through, and we'll be ready for dinner. We turn the fire off. Now we're going to let it sit so it's not so crazy hot when we eat it. We'll serve it up. If you got some good crusty bread to go with that, it's just amazing. You can sop up what's left in your bowl with it. There we go, folks. Dinner in about 5 minutes. Doesn't that look yummy? You just can't beat that when you're tired and you just want to sit down. So, hope you enjoyed hanging out with me today. We're going to call it a day. We're going to put a wrap on it. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We love you guys. Remember, I'm going to put the MRE, homemade MRE recipe here at the end of this video. So, love you guys.